Very few chances throughout the year that all of our locations come together and worship and have fun together. And so I always enjoy those moments. This year, it's going to be here at this campus, and which is awesome. But we also, believe it or not, can't hold everybody in this room. And so there'll be two services for you to choose from, which will be a 5:30 or a 7:30 service. And so make plans to be here for that. Good Friday is always a fun day. And then Easter Sunday. And statistically speaking, Easter Sunday is maybe someone's been laid on your heart. Maybe God's been prompting you to invite someone that you work with or a family member or whatever that looks like. Well, statistically speaking, it is the greatest opportunity for you to invite somebody and them to say yes. And so, be thinking and praying about, hey, God, who would you have me to invite to church this Easter? It's going to be a really great day, and excited about that too. So make plans for all of those things. Well, we are jumping into a new series. It's called March Madness. If you follow college basketball at all, or you don't, you've probably still heard of March Madness, and a really fun time. You fill out brackets, and there's lots of different opportunities to be involved in March Madness in a basketball setting. But for us, it looks like really basically the fundamentals of faith. And so you can't play a basketball game without some fundamentals or understanding some fundamentals about basketball. Every good basketball team has to have strong fundamentals to win. Every time. I've seen extremely talented teams with great players that can shoot threes and hold a high percentage. I've seen teams that can run an offense, and it's run and gun, and they can be on the other end shooting a layup and put a high number on the board. But if they don't have some fundamentals behind them, and they're playing a team that's less talented but stronger fundamentally, the fundamental team, I've watched them win many times over and over again. Because there's something to be said about the fundamentals of understanding the game, the fundamentals of understanding and using the faith that God's given you. So today we're going to talk about, all month long, really, we're going to look at different fundamentals of basketball and correlate them to some foundational faith pieces. And so today we're talking about pivot. Now, I'll give you the definition that it says here, and then we'll talk through what it actually means. So, in basketball, pivot is a legal move where a player holding the ball keeps one foot, the pivot foot, firmly planted on the floor while stepping with the other foot to change direction, protect the ball, or prepare to pass or shoot. It's a way to legally move while avoiding trouble, or while avoiding traveling. So, when you're talking about, so if I'm dribbling and if I pick up the ball, my foot's planted, I can take different moves. I can protect the ball. I can break through some press and pass the ball. I can do all kinds of things, and I can still remain in control of what I'm trying to do. And so, when we're talking about in a faith sense, Ephesians 4:23 and 24 says, "Instead, let the Spirit renew your thoughts and attitudes. Put on your new nature, created to be like God, truly righteous and holy." Listen, life is full of areas where you may need to pivot. You got new jobs. Maybe a new job season is causing you to pivot things. If you're married, marriage is full of these pivotal moments where I've got to change direction. We got to change something happening. Kids always have you on your toes. Broken relationships, callings of God. Life is full of these moments where we have to make pivots to keep forward momentum of moving the kingdom forward. A few things that we're going to talk about today. One of them is pivoting keeps you from turnovers. Pivoting keeps you from turnovers. If you get trapped, my basketball team growing up, high school, we were tall and lanky, and we could move fast. And so we might not have had some big bodies in the paint to protect the goal, but our goal was, we're going to steal it from you, and we're going to be on the other end shooting a layup before you even get past half court. And that was basically our run and gun game. So we would trap you at half court, two of us, point guard, or the guy that's guarding the point, and a helper would come. We'd trap you in the corner, and we'd be all over you. And they'd have to move in order to figure out how to pivot. They'd have to step through or figure out how to get rid of it if they wanted to keep the ball moving forward. If they just stood there and tried to hold it, we're either going to get a 5-second call on them, or we're going to reach our hands in and we're going to get a jump ball and we're going to get the ball. So other teams had to figure out how to use the pivot to keep moving forward, or we would destroy them. And a lot of times we would win because we're fast and we win. That's all we do is win, right? I enjoy winning, not so much losing. And so when we're talking about when I get trapped or if I get stuck in life situations, pivoting allows me to find freedom without hurting my team. See, if I get stuck in a situation, if all I do is just ball up and just try to survive, someone's going to take the ball and my team suffers. In my walk with Jesus, if I'm pivoting, allows me to move and change my scene or change my thought pattern so that we can still advance the kingdom of God and the team continues to push forward and win. The Team Jesus continues to go further and louder and greater than ever before. And so there's times in life when we have to choose to pivot instead of losing the ball. There's moments in life where we actually have to choose to do something different to make it through. You know, sometimes just sitting and curling up, it's like watching the young kids when they're just figuring out how to dribble and how to get down the court. But if the ball ends up on the floor, it's like just a dog pile to see who can hold on to it the tightest and longest, and it's just a whole bunch of jump balls. But we've got to be willing to change our perspective on situations in order to keep the ball. One of those ways that pivoting and keeping from turnovers is when we respond or we react in anger. Ephesians 4:26 says, "And don't sin by letting anger control you. Don't let the sun go down while you're still angry, for anger gives a foothold to the devil." Anybody ever been angry about anything? It's like there's a plentiful amount of things that will set us off or that can cause us to be angry, but we've got to have some self-control. We got to be able to assess the situation and respond rather than to react. And honestly, we've got to own these moments. We can't just, it's not okay for us just to get incredibly angry and then respond, and then it's everybody else's problem. We've got to own these moments where when we've let anger creep in, we can't don't sin by letting anger control you. We got to keep anger at bay. So many times we react instead of respond. And then we find ourselves in a tougher spot than we were before. Anybody else who reacted to a situation and you're like, that made it worse. I've been there and done that. We have to clean up the original mess plus the new mess. And that never works out super well. Last night, I'll give you an example of how I had to figure out how to pivot and clean up a mess. So we had gotten home a little bit later. We were here building about, hey, youth, you get a new basketball goal at the end of this sermon series to replace the one that barely holds the rim on out there. So But we were here building that and got home and walked in, and it was super late. And then we were doing a few things, trying to catch a bite, get some things done. And then Addison comes. So just for context, her room is upstairs and down a hallway, and then her room is on the right, and there's a bathroom like 4 steps out of her doorway. But she isn't feeling super well all of a sudden, so she decides she needs to get out of her bed and into the hallway and run down the hallway and down the stairs and turn and go back around to the other hallway and come into Mom and Dad's room and try to make it to our bathroom, in which case she did not. And Pastor Ashley is like, if I asked her to clean that up, I would be cleaning 2 up. And and I'm trying not to be too information free here, but like it was literally everywhere. I mean, she did not just not make it, like everywhere. And it was one of those that like some of them smell worse than others, and this one was in my room, and I could smell it from like the garage. And so like I had to like, it was now probably about 1, and so I spent the next like 50 minutes cleaning up vomit that I hadn't planned on, and then I was thinking, wow, I got to be up in like 3.5 hours. I could have been really mad. I could have been angry. I was going to say I could have told her that her bathroom, but I did tell her her bathroom was right around the corner. I did tell her, listen, Addie, I love you. You're almost 13. This is Dad's one tonight. So, like, you should take a bucket, a paper bag, a trash bag. I don't really care, but the next time, it's on Addie, not Daddy. And so I just had to pivot. Like, I was literally going, like, I was laying down. And I had to pivot my thinking. I had to pivot my situation. I had to respond, not react. If I reacted, it would have been nothing nice at 1 o'clock in the morning. And so that is a funny, to you, not so much me, illustration of like sometimes life just does things and sets things in front of you, and you have an opportunity to get mad or just to get over it and get on with what's happening in front of you. So if I'm angry, how do I pivot when I'm mad? Sometimes you just got to stop. Like, don't do anything until you see clearly. Sometimes we react far before we ever even actually see what the problem is. Sometimes you need to breathe. Sometimes you've got to catch your breath before you try to respond out of desperation, or before you try to react out of desperation. For me, breathing was less important. I had a hand towel tied around my neck. But since this story first service, I've learned so much from you guys. I can put some scent, hunting scent away. I can spray it on there. It neutralizes the smell. I've learned that I can rub Vicks underneath my nose and takes away the smell. I've learned that there's another like a fabric, like a dog odor type of spray that you can spray. And I'm like, these are all genius ideas. I should talk about my life problems to you guys more often, and my life would be much better. But I just breathe before you react. Pray. God, how would you have me to handle this situation? What does it look like that I need to walk through and process in this situation? Another one is think. Process reality, not feelings and emotions. Process reality, not feelings and emotions. Think about what's actually being presented in front of you. Sometimes it seems like it's a bad thing, but the reality is maybe it's just having you pivot around something that's a good thing. So just stop, breathe, pray, think, and then respond with all of that in mind. If we would take steps like that, and honestly, if we would pray when I'm talking to God about my situation and the anger I'm having in my situation, God's presence sets in, and the anger and God's presence can't exist all at the same time. So if I'm praying and ushering in the presence of God, I'm ushering out anger in my life, and then I can respond to the situation, not react in the situation. Pain, when we're physically or emotionally in pain, it's so hard to do the right thing. You've heard the age-old adage that hurting people hurt people. And that is, I've never seen that not true. I've walked through a lot of pain and a lot of hurt with a lot of people, and generally speaking, if we don't slow down, hurting people naturally hurt people. When we're in pain, our rational thinking drops. Our long-term planning shrinks away. Our impulse to control just goes out the window. Our moral reasoning leaves us, and our ability to weigh the consequences of the things that are in front of us reduces. You know what's crazy is your working memory drops 20 to 50% when you're in pain. Pain has this way of changing the way that our brain functions. It's hard to think clearly when you're hurting. Have you ever experienced a loss? And that loss can easily dictate your next 10 steps that you're going to take based upon the pain that you're feeling. We focus on relief and not wisdom. How can I get the quickest relief from the pain that I'm experiencing today? That's what we focus on instead of having wisdom in the middle of the situation. We look for escape, not endurance. You know, the Bible says that run the race and be with good endurance, and it talks there's several different places that it talks about being willing to have endurance for what God is doing in your life. And when we're in pain, oftentimes we're more interested in where's the quickest, closest escape that I can run to and get out of this, instead of looking for the endurance to grow through it. We look for temporary comfort instead of calling. I know, God, you're calling me to this, and I think sometimes when we say those things, our brain instantly goes to the negative side. I'm talking about God's called you to do something for the kingdom, and you start walking it out, and it's great, and it's wonderful, and you get to a spot what feels really comfortable in your sphere of walking and influence and people, and He's saying, all right, next step, and you're like, this feels really good. I think we'll hang out here. Or, well, I've watched somebody go through that before, and I don't need that pain. James 1:2-4, it says, Dear brothers and sisters, when trouble of any kind comes your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow, for when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing. Isn't that exciting? When troubles of any kind come your way, consider them opportunities of great joy, for great joy. I typically don't view it that way to begin with. When things or troubles come my way, oftentimes, I'm a fixer, so oftentimes my brain shifts from just life into how can I solve this? What's the best solution? How can I fix this? We need to get through this. We need to do all of these things. We need to eliminate this as quickly as possible. But James is saying, consider it an opportunity for great joy. That's crazy. It's an opportunity for you and for me, when troubles and pain comes our way, that we may learn something through it, that we may get better walking through it. James is saying, you can look at this one of two ways. It's something to get through, or it's something to grow through. Which one would you choose to put in play? I tend to be we call ourselves realists. Some people call us, pessimist, or which is really negative. We're just real. But I have to be really careful about what I allow to come out of my mouth, because I truly think that there's things that we can learn and grow through. I'm not just trying to get through anything. Like the one of the sayings that I've been really careful to eliminate over the last couple of years is, man, it's almost Friday. We almost made it. We almost got through another week. And if you say these things, I'm not saying you're going to hell. I'm just saying, I've chose to stop saying them because it's not good for me. And I don't ever want to get through a week. I want to grow through a week. Like, God, what do you have in my life for Monday? What does Tuesday look like for you, for my life? What is it that you're going to place in front of me that I'm going to have an opportunity to pivot and move and see you move in a different direction that I thought was going to happen, and all of these different things. So we just got to be careful what you feed yourself, because before long, all you're doing is shooting for Friday and trying to stay as far away from Monday as you can get. It's going to be, I'm trying to get through the situation so that I don't have this annoyance in my life anymore. And then 6 months later, when a similar event comes along, you've not learned anything from the last one, so you find yourself in the middle of the next one. That's why it's important to grow through it, to see yourself growing through the situation, not just simply getting through. Oftentimes we try to get through moments versus seeing what God wants to fully develop in us in the middle of them. Notice James is saying pain can cause our faith to be tested. Pain can cause our faith to be tested. Anybody in the house? Pain is inevitable. Our response is what changes the outcome. The Bible's super clear. You're going to see troubles and trials. Pain is going to take place in your life through the journey of life. But it's our response that changes the outcome on the other side. I think we offer too much of the steering wheel to just whatever it is. Hopefully we get there on the other side. I think we should take back some of the control and put it back into God's hands where it belongs. Not just out there for hopes and dreams to make it happen. No, bring it back in. Bring it back to prayer. Bring it back to His Word. Bring it back to His nature and character. Walk through it, grow through it, and see God do crazy things on the other side. You're either gonna grow bitter or better, and you get to choose. You get to choose. So pivoting keeps you from turnovers. Number 2, pivoting advances the ball. If I'm moving down the floor and I'm dribbling, someone comes up to guard me, I stop, I'm guarded, and I can either be stuck and sit here, or I can figure out how to pivot and move. Come on. Hey, I'm just kidding. He's taking notes. Taking notes as how old are you, Colton? 12. Taking notes on the front row. That's awesome. I shouldn't have picked on you. Now I feel bad, okay? I got to pivot in my mind and say, I'm going to pick on Pastor Donna. No, I'm just kidding. But whenever I stop, I can either be trapped or I can do something to move and I can advance the ball forward. I can keep forward momentum by pivoting and trying to see things and do things a little differently. If I'm moving the ball down the floor, I get stopped. That doesn't have to be the end of it. It's just the beginning of my next move, okay? Genesis 12, 1-4, it says, the Lord had said to Abram, leave your native country, your relatives and your father's family, and go to the land that I will show you. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you and make you famous, and you will be a blessing to others. I will bless those who bless you, and I'll curse those who treat you with contempt. all the families on earth will be blessed through you. That's so cool. That's so amazing. So Abram departed as the Lord had instructed, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran. Abram had settled for less than what God had called him to. Now Abram had built, he's 75. I'm almost 40, and I'm thinking, man, all these things that I'm trying to get in place for my kids, and all these things that I'm trying to do, and then all of a sudden, God says, hey, I need you to leave everything that you've been building, all your legacy, all your cattle, all your livestock, for His sake, for His situation. And I need you to go to the place that I'm going to tell you. In other words, head south with your family and what you got, and we'll figure it out. That's crazy. That was a major pivotal moment where he had to say, ooh, hey God, are you sure? But if you say so, I'm going to pivot and we're going to keep moving. Abram had been living a good life, and in the middle of it, God said, go. Abram had his life planned out. He was building, he was rocking, he was getting things lined out. How many of us would be willing to listen in these moments? I think it's easy to say in the middle of a church service in a predominantly safe environment to say, oh yeah, I would so follow God. I would do anything He told me to, sell anything that He told me to. But when the reality goes from it could happen to okay, do it, it's a pretty tough situation. It takes a lot to actually do what God is telling you to do. Are you willing to pivot when everything is going great? I actually think it's probably easier to pivot in the bad times because you're looking for an area to change something in your life. But when times are good and you've got the things that are happening and God says, okay, now check this out. I need you to go the opposite direction. It's those moments when it's hard to say, okay, God, I trust you. Okay, God, I'll take a step, even though I don't even know where you're leading me. This context here is crazy. Are you willing to, here's the other side of the coin, are you willing to not pivot when it's bad? I'll give you an example. Joseph and Potiphar's wife. Joseph had been through several ups and downs. His brothers had treated him terribly, found himself in all kinds of different areas. Finally got back to this seat in this moment whenever he had found favor with Potiphar, and he was back to great things happening. All of a sudden, Potiphar's wife says, wow, oh, Joey looks pretty good. He's pretty muscular. Hey, we should, we need to spend some time together. And Joseph's like, no, I can't do that. That's not, I'm not doing that. So after a course of a few times there, he keeps saying no. She ends up with a piece of his clothing, spreads a whole bunch of lies and rumors about him, and he finds himself back in a very unpleasant situation than he was even before. How easy would it have been just for Joseph to say, okay, we're not supposed to do this isn't right, but this one time, and then you got to leave me alone, and we're going to be through this, and we're going to get on this other side. How many times do we hold strong whenever we need to hold strong? Like there's moments when God says, all right, I need you to make a move, and we pivot and we move. And if God doesn't say it, it's time to stand and then stand firm, as the word says. Like there's moments when it doesn't matter. Joseph knew what was going to end up coming to take place here, but he still stood his ground. He didn't pivot to make bad decisions. He didn't pivot because the situation was less than desirable. He stood his ground. He ended up back in prison, but then at the end of the story, he's wildly blessed. But sometimes we've got to spend time not doing what God isn't telling us to do. We've got to hold strong sometimes. Pivoting with God is all about trust. Do you actually trust Him? Are you willing to trust God's voice and word when it's tough? Because bad decisions start looking like good ones when I'm in the worst seasons of my life. And if I don't have His word, and if I'm not willing to trust Him, I'll begin to make bad decisions. It's timing. This is an important piece here. The right thing at the wrong time is still the wrong thing. Just because you trust Him and just because He gave you something to do or something to say but didn't tell you to go now, doing the right thing at the wrong time is still the wrong thing. Trust His timing. And then you got to have tenacity. It's pursuing despite comfort or setbacks. Trust Him, trust His timing, and have tenacity to keep following Him. You've got to keep advancing the ball, advancing the kingdom. Pivoting, last one. Pivoting allows you to change direction. Luke 15, 17 through 20. When he finally came to his senses, he said to himself, "At home, even the hired servants have food enough to spare, and here I am dying of hunger. I will go home to my father and say, 'Father, I've sinned against both heaven and you, and I'm no longer worthy of being called your son. Please take me on as a hired servant.' So he returned home to his father, and while he was still a long ways off, his father saw him coming. Filled with love and compassion, he ran to his son, embraced him, and kissed him." There's a lot to this story that we don't have time to get back into, but there's a lot of correlation between the father in this situation and correlating to Jesus never leaving you or forsaking you. This was a length of time that this young man said, "Listen, Dad, I want my inheritance early. I got this whole life thing figured out. I don't need you. Give me my money. I know you're still alive, but I still want my money." He took his money. He had a great time and spent it all and gave it all away, doing horrendous things, and then found himself sitting in the middle of a pig pen trying to share food with a pig. And it's in this moment that he says, what am I doing? So that length of time for the scripture to say, "And the father saw him coming from a long ways off, and he ran to him." Two things there. He was daily looking for his return. And secondly, for a man of his stature to pick up his tunic-ish thing and sprint across the land was like wildly unheard of. So, sidebar sermon, if you're here, you're not too far from God. God's still got His arms open and ready to receive you. There's freedom found in grace through you having faith in who Jesus Christ is today. And if that's for you, I would just encourage you to accept it today. But in this situation, we're talking about the son, and he realizes that he's messed up. He had heard a ton of people along. He had sinned against God. He had sinned against his father, a man. The only thing that would change the moment was a pivot from where he was. I love the vivid nature of the Bible because if you've ever been around a pig pen at all, you know that pig pens they're disgusting. There's slop everywhere. It's typically very muddy most all the time. They they dig, and it's a nasty mess all the time. So you got to imagine a prominent man's son who took his inheritance that made him very wealthy, threw some of the biggest and best parties along the way, now finds himself sitting in a pig pen with slop all around him, with mud caped all over him, with who knows what in it, and he is sharing food with a pig that most of the time the pig slops were most of the unusable food from the house that ended up just in the pig pen, and he's picking through trying to find things to survive. And it was in that moment that an epiphany came to him, and he said, hold up. Even my father's servants have food left over at the end of their meals. Maybe I should pivot and go back to at least being a servant of my father. It was a decision. It was a moment. The only thing that would change was a pivot. He needed to change direction. Notice it said, I have sinned, so he returned. I've sinned, so he returned. There were two things that had to happen for this pivot to take place. I've sinned and now I've turned, which is another correlation, again, of the Father's overwhelming love for us and His grace that He has for us. I can make a mistake, but as long as I'm willing to humble myself, admit my mistake, and come back to the foot of the cross and meet Jesus and say, I've sinned against you, please forgive me, it happens instantly. Two things took place here. Perspective. He had a perspective pivot. Ephesians 4:23, instead, let the Spirit renew your thoughts and attitudes. Sometimes we need to let the Spirit take a hold of your bad thoughts, get rid of them, and put good thoughts that come from the Spirit. For the first time, this young man saw his situation from a different perspective. It's like an aha moment, like a light bulb. What am I doing? Why am I here struggling eating pig slop? I know that I have a Father that will bring me back into the house, even if it's as a servant. Sometimes you got to change what you think. It all starts with your mind. Remember me talking earlier about things that I've been trying to eliminate out of my vocabulary so that they don't even come into my mind? I don't talk about how negative the day is. I try to see some of the highlights in the day. I'm not saying I nail that all the time. I don't speak bad things. You know, I don't see a situation and say, well, here we go. This is going to happen, and we're probably going to see that, and then that person's going to do this, and then we're going to be in this big thing. Because sometimes I've got to change what I think. Sometimes I've got to get positive influence into my mind so that I can have a different perspective, so that I can be chasing after that. Unbeknownst to us, a lot of times when we have poor mindset, that's what we tend to take steps towards. Change what you see. You get what you look for. What are you looking for? Are you looking for the goodness of God? Are you looking for His grace and peace to enter into your life? Perspective pivot and a directional pivot. Change what you're doing. Sometimes you just got to change what you're doing. If it isn't working, and it hasn't worked for the last decade, you know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over, expecting different results. Sometimes we need to change what we're doing. Ephesians 4:24, put on your new nature, created to be like God, truly righteous and holy. Here's the reality. If nothing changes, nothing changes. If nothing changes, nothing changes. Sometimes we got to change what we're doing. So if you want something to change, if something you're facing in life, you need a change, you need a different direction, then change something. Make a pivot to some different direction. Change something in your life. We get so focused on result. We get so focused on what's the result and how do I get to the result and when does the result happen. How about we focus on the activity and let the result take care of itself? We have a garden, and we plant some plants out there and then do our best to get a few things that don't have weeds in it by the end of the time. But I plant seeds, and then they grow, and hypothetically they produce tomatoes or green beans or whatever it is that we're growing. It's interesting that I don't plant the seed and then I start thinking about, okay, now what do I need to tell that seed that it needs to sprout, and it needs to do it in this amount of time frame with this amount of moisture so that it can go down. Now, green bean, you need some roots down there so that when the bush comes out and beans start to, you got something to hold yourself. And then, at week like 4, I need you to start producing some flowers so some green beans start. No, I don't do that. I plant the seed, and I'm focused on I'm doing on the activity. I'm going to plant the seed, and then it's going to grow, and it's going to do what it's supposed to do, and the results are going to be happening. Sometimes we get so focused on, okay, here, I need to do X, Y, and Z. And in order to do that, I've got to find 6 goals and then 3 subsequent goals that are going to support those 3 goals so that will put me in the right process and time to be at this setting in this room. Guys, start an activity. Change your direction. Believe that God's called you to do it. Be active. Just go. Just take some move. Just take some movements. Get to where He's taking you. Here's the deal. If you want to lose weight, stop eating junk. Change something. That's the reality. Sometimes I think we look at it with super deep theological viewpoints, and the reality is, man, if I want to lose weight, I got to eat better. I got to change something. If I want to be a better leader, I got to get around more influential leaders than myself. I've got to get around smarter leaders than myself so I can lean and glean and learn and shift and change and put different perspectives into my life. If you want to retire, if I want to retire one day, I got to set myself up so that I'm putting into 401 and I'm doing all these different things and investments that are going to continue to grow. I got to have activity in my life that says I need some different direction in my life. Here's an activity that's going to pay off in the end. And then trust the process. Stop trying to control everything that you say, here, God, this is yours. And by the way, you should do this, this, and this, and then together we're going to accomplish this. We've just got to be better at saying, here's the ball. It's in your court. This young man hated where he was, knew something had to change, so he pivoted. Many people have wanted out of the pig pen but didn't change anything. 1 John 3:6 says, anyone who continues to live in Him will not sin, but anyone who keeps on sinning does not know Him or understand who He is. Super tough words. Like I said before, the moment, I'm closing right here, the moment that you ask Him for forgiveness, He gives it to you. But if you don't pivot, if you're living in a course of life that isn't honoring Him, and all you do is use your words and you don't pivot to change something in your life, John says you don't really want salvation. You want to get out of jail free card for the situation that you're in. You really don't want salvation in a relationship with Jesus Christ. There's people that are around us. Sometimes they're asking for help. they don't really want help. They want to do the same thing and then pray for different results. John is just saying it's as simple as this. This is why I love John. Follow Jesus. John just boils one of the synoptic gospels down to, listen, just follow Jesus. So today, finding areas and ways that maybe in your life, maybe you're facing something. You need help. Maybe you need to pivot somewhere. This morning, I hope that you would take the time. We're going to have a prayer team up here. We're going to enter into interactive worship. If that's you and you need some area of your life where you need prayer and help to get back on the right track, you got to make a different move. You need to pivot and change directions. Maybe you just need prayer for something that has nothing to do with pivoting, and that's perfectly fine. Please come and get prayer. There's communion on each side of the table today, but as we stand, I just want you to take a moment as we're worshiping. Say, God, is there anything in my life? I don't want to respond out of anger. I don't want to live out of anger. I don't want to do these things. Maybe you need to check that today. But just as we worship, I just pray that you just talk to God. And if there's some area of your life you need to pivot in, do it today. Make the move today. Would you worship with us?